welcome everyone. In case you haven't been to a CocoaHeads Meetup yet, we organize CocoaHeads Meetup already for a considerable time, let's say. And every month we have a meetup. We're part of the international CocoaHeads, so also in other cities and countries you can find the CocoaHeads. They might have different names like NS London or NS Coder, something like this. So very, very welcome. So we talk about everything Apple. We actually exist also due to our sponsors in order to do the hosting costs for the videos that you can rewatch on YouTube. We have an Apple Watch or Apple TV app where you can also watch them, and an app on the App Store that you might know of where we put all the meetups in. So I would like to thank our sponsors. And could you do the next slide, Marco? So we also have a shop where you can buy some apparel if you want, t-shirts. I'm not seeing any today, but that's okay. Maybe next time. And then today we're hosted by Doctolib Siilo. So I'm going to introduce Elliot and Margot. I'm going to hand over the microphone because they're going to do the introduction about the company themselves. If you want to do a talk, please come visit me or Marco afterwards. If you have a place where you would like to have a CocoaHeads meetup, please also come and see us. And then have a really nice evening. And I know. You want me to introduce the actual speakers as well? Okay, so we have two presentations, one from Bruno, who's going to talk about accessibility, and one from Tom Lokhorst, who's going to talk about from frames to files. So those will be the presentations after the initial introduction. And this is the thing I just did. So please come and see me and Marco if you have any questions. And then I'm going to give the mic to Elliot, and you can take it away, basically.
Awesome. Ooh, perfect. Look at that. The slides are already up. I don't know how you did that. Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Elliot Monifee. Welcome to Doctolib Siilo. So I am a senior engineering manager here at the office. I'm actually quite new at the company, still within my second month. And yeah, I will be presenting us with help from Margot over here. So I'll present the company itself, like Doctolib, the bigger part of the organization, and then I'll hand it off to her so she can tell you a little bit more about Siilo and what we're building here. Before we get started on that, I do need a favor from all of you. So we actually have a sign-up sheet, and this is actually necessary from the office and the building itself. We have very strict security policies, especially at this company, because we are a medical like software company, and so we have it's necessary for everybody who has their name on that sheet to sign in so we know who came in and out of this building for security purposes. So Daniel's going to pass that around, and if you don't mind, signing and putting your information on there, I think your names should already be on there. So find your name and put your email address and your signature. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. And so let's get started. Ooh. Give me a second. I need to change focus to this. There we are. So we are Doctolib, and then it should do that. Bam! See, there it is. Okay, cool. Yes, exactly. Just have to wait a second. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are. So we have over 3,000 Doctolibers in the company, and we are building the healthcare future that we all dream of. And currently we serve a network of over 900,000 professional users. So these are like doctors or even their assistants, things like that. And then on the patient side, we actually have 90 million patients, and this is all within Europe at the moment. So we have not expanded outside of Europe. We are, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the countries that we do work in later. So, there, right there, led right into it. So our business is actually conducted again through 4 different countries. So we are originally from France, and we expanded to also Germany and Italy. And now with the not so recent acquisition of Siilo, we are also in the Netherlands, specifically in Amsterdam. So for our engineering teams, we are primarily located in Paris and Berlin, but we actually do, now have an engineering hub here in Amsterdam. It is a smaller hub, but we are hiring and we are growing, and we're hoping to make this into a pretty exciting hub in the future. So I want to tell you a little bit about our vision and our mission at this company. So the two biggest ones, right, is looking at the two different sides of the healthcare, right? And the one side is for the healthcare professionals, and what it is that we want to improve the way that they work in the daily life of the healthcare professionals. And the second vision is to help people to be healthier, to live healthier lives in general. And so how do we do that? So to tell you a little bit about how we do that, I'm going to briefly run over all of the different products that we have. And this starts with Doctolib Patient, which is, I think, where probably most people in France, Germany, and Italy, where we have launched this product, most people know this product as a whole. And so Doctolib Patient has both the patient side where you can book, and then on the other side for the healthcare provider, where you can actually have your calendar and all of the work that you need to do, you can find it all in one place. Then we have telehealth, which I think you all probably understand. This had a big boom during COVID, where you can talk to your doctor remotely. And then we have here Doctolib Siilo, which is what we're working on here. You'll hear about that more soon. And then we have Doctolib Practice, which is the clinical and financial solution, which includes things like patient files, online prescriptions, smart documents, and doing billing for the work that healthcare providers are doing. A little bit about our tech stack. So these are all the different things that we have within our tech stack. That is not really the tech stack we're using here in this office. Part of it is. We'll show you about that a little bit later. And with that is Doctolib. So this is where I will hand it off to Margot, and she'll tell you a little bit more about Siilo.
Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, so here in Amsterdam office, we are working on Doctolib Siilo product. It was founded 9 years ago. Siilo is a secure medical communication app designed for healthcare professionals. Through encrypted chat-based messaging, voice and video calling, healthcare professionals can discuss and coordinate patient care with colleagues within and beyond their organization. Today, Siilo is the largest medical network in Europe with more than 1 million members who exchange 9 million messages monthly. The main functionality of the application is designed to meet needs of healthcare professionals to connect, collaborate, and educate. You have probably never used our messenger because you are unlikely to be a healthcare professional, so I will quickly introduce you to the core functionality and our features. So we have 4 tabs, chats, which includes private and group chats, Prisma, the old name is cases, network tab, and profile tab with settings. Across the whole app, we have photo editing, which guarantee patient privacy with blur tool, and ability to show extra attention by editing arrows. Red arrows. And also voice and video initiate secure audio and video calls directly through Siilo. Chats include private and group chats and patient cases. Chats offer multiple collaboration features to enhance teamwork, along with case-based messaging threads and search capabilities. Prisma, Prisma gives the option to discuss anonymized patient cases with general chat threads. It makes it easier to create cases, share patient details, and work together with other teams. Healthcare providers can also search through the case database and ask questions to learn from others. Network, yeah. The network tab lets you search and connect with verified professionals. You can also access important information from your organization, find members quickly, and collaborate on specific topics or cases to learn from peers and discuss new challenges. And in Profile tab, you can fill your profile and get verified to make collaboration and referrals faster, set your availability status for work-life balance, and secure store photos and files before sharing them. So now we know what functionality the app provides. Let's have a look at how it is built. Our app is modularized with static and dynamic linkage. It improves code organization and maintainability by breaking down the project into independent modules, making it easier to scale and manage. Static linkage results in faster runtime performance since all the code is compiled into a single binary, while dynamic linkage allows for reduced memory usage and smaller app size. We use MVVM with well-defined roles and responsibilities for our models, view and view models, and coordinators to manage our presentation and navigation, and eventually make things easier to mock and test. We use React Swift and Combine for reactive programming, while slowly transition to async await for modern concurrency. For UI, we use UIKit, and we are gradually moving towards Swift UI. For dependency injection, we use SwiftGent. Additionally, we implement long polling to maintain real-time connection between app and server. And we also use Almorfire and Moya for network layer. With great technology comes great responsibility. Data protection rules are getting stricter to keep us safe, and this is good, right? That's why we decided to create a messaging platform that's completely private and secure. We want our users to feel totally confident by using Siilo. Our compliance with GDPR, e-security, and ICO guarantees that the data handling and security processes meet the highest industry standards, demonstrating our commitment to protect sensitive information. Every user on Siilo platform goes through our mandatory verification process. We cross-check each identity and make sure all users are who they say they are, so everyone can feel confident about who they are talking to. We guarantee our users' privacy through end-to-end encryption. This means that nobody but the user and the person they chatting with can read their messages. Third parties are not able to get access to users' content. We use networking and cryptography library Sodium, a leading open source library that provides all operational needs for us to create high-level cryptographical tools that keeps the information safe. Earlier, you saw the tech stack for Doctolib, and this is a tech stack for specifically Siilo. Siilo, it's not only about iOS, so we also proudly can say that we have Android application and web version for Siilo. And I am excited to introduce our iOS team, Bruno, Ruslan, and myself, Margot. And if you have any question, you can find me and Ruslan here and ask us after talks. And we are also excited that 2 more iOS engineers join us soon. And this is our almost full team. Few people you can also find here in the office. We just filled all our iOS position, but please keep an eye on the career page for future opportunities, and also we are currently looking for a backend developer, and Yeah, this is the link. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we need 1 or 2 minutes because I saw just Bruno take a break. He'll be right back.
Testing, testing. Yes. Everyone can hear me? Okay. Welcome, everyone, to my talk. I will be talking about accessibility. The clock is ticking, and this is meant to invoke a little bit of urgency in your efforts of making your app completely accessible. And I hope it will work. And if not, the next couple of slides maybe will. So my name is Bruno Scheele. I'm a freelance iOS developer. I'm currently doing a job at ABN, where I'm mainly focused on helping getting their app accessible. And I do this by being in a team and handling most of their accessibility issues, and by being part of the Accessibility Guild, which focuses on helping others solve their accessibility issues. And to summarize my talk very, very shortly, I will be talking about 4 things. First off, legislation. This is why you should be worried. Then, once you are sufficiently worried, I want to get you started. I want to be able to help people get their app accessible. But once you start getting your app accessible, there are a lot of common pitfalls that you are handling. You're solving all the easy ones, and then comes the hard part. And after that, once you think, I'm getting serious, no, then you can still get even more serious. And I will be discussing that. So first off, legislation. I am the law. Or in this case, the European Accessibility Act is the law. So the European Union likes to be very helpful to all its citizens, every citizen in all the countries. And part of that is the European Accessibility Act. That means that they want to remove all digital barriers for people with disabilities. which is a great goal. It's a lofty goal. And this got started in 2019, when all government and semi-government organizations were starting to be obliged to become accessible. This is why you see all of your taxes and tax websites and municipal websites slowly adding, how you call it, speaker icons so that you can read everything aloud, and everything is becoming slowly more accessible. Now, this is all great, but next year in June, it will become into effect for the next phase. And the next phase means financial institutions, insurance companies, and very large companies, and maybe even medium-sized companies. So that is, for many of us, probably the scary part. I think I saw how big is Doctolib. Yep, they probably fall under this too, so that'll be interesting. But it's coming, and we're not sure how it's going to be enforced. Considering EU, it'll probably take a while, but it's best to be ready beforehand instead of having someone behind you breathing down your neck. And this involves every digital interaction that the people might have. This goes from apps to websites to intranets, to getting money from the wall. There's a digital device over there, so even that has to be accessible. Everything counts. So, and just to emphasize, June 2025, that's only 8 months away. Especially for the large companies that this is targeting, 8 months is nothing. So let's get started. Yes. Now, how do you comply to this act? I'm not going to do all the legal jargon. This is why you have legal departments. They can handle all that stuff. But very basically, your app should should follow the WCAG, as they like to call it, and specifically the 2.2 version, which is the most recent current version, at the AA level, which is not the highest, but it's not the most basic level either. So, sadly, that's all very web-based. So there's web guidelines with stuff like links and pop-ups and side panels and all the stuff that we don't care about. But it mostly operates in 4 categories, which I'm mentioning here: how people see things, how people operate on things. Is it understandable? This is more often with language and what kind of words are you using? And is it robust? Does it stand up against changes in resolution, in landscape orientation? All those things are mentioned. And thankfully, these are still web guidelines, but they're sort of adjusted for mobile and for mobile native apps. So some of them don't count, but not really a lot of them. So you might as well just try to follow all of them. Thankfully, there's a 3.0 coming up. Not sure how long that will take, but that one does actually have native app guidelines, which will make our lives a lot easier. So, and how do you actually, according to Dutch law, make sure that you comply with the law? Is providing documentation. This is all still self-regulated, so you have to promise, pinky swear, that your app is accessible. You can decide that with an app rating, accessibility rating, from A to F, and only the A to C is valid. And then, for example, having Doctolib as an example, each of your apps, for example, could have its accessibility rating, and then each of the websites, if you have them, would also have their own accessibility rating. And you can probably also distinguish between Android and iOS if you want. So you have to prove this. How do you prove this? Well, you have to hand over all the documentation on the actual audit that you either did yourself or you had done by someone else. And you have to provide like documentation. Okay, what's my progress going to be that ensures we are improving upon our accessibility level? Each level has a different, how you call it, condition that says, okay, within a year I'm moving up 1 level, or I'm actually staying on the same level or going below it. So it's interesting. Getting started. So how do you get started with going accessible for your app? Well, the first easy one is just getting started yourself. You all have phones. Your phones have all kinds of fancy settings, and you can try out those settings. Nearly 50% of all people have at least one setting enabled. And very often this is either dark mode or just text size. but you also have bold text, you also have zoom, there's also high contrast settings, reduce motion settings, do not autoplay animation settings. There's all kinds of settings that you can try out yourself. And trying it out is easy. Let me get this. Yes, because you can even create an accessibility shortcut. You go to settings, you quickly type in shortcut, you'll see the accessibility shortcut, and then you see all the accessibility settings that you can put behind the shortcut. And once you triple click your home button or your side button, you get all the options that you have selected for easy access. So if you're testing, it's a nice way to save a lot of time by just immediately enabling voiceover, immediately enabling voice control, all those things. So those are your device settings. More on that later. There's one caveat. But we also have accessibility technologies. Kind of the same thing. There's accessibility settings that enable very specific accessibility technologies. This is the part that people with real disabilities are going to use a lot, that you are going to be programming for. So there's 4 big ones, which I'm going to go quickly through. So dynamic text is the most obvious one. You can see here. Let's see. Yes, it's working. You can see here our ABN, the ABN app, and we're putting the setting to 310%. And it still has to be legible. It still has to work correctly. All your elements still have to be visible properly. No squishing. It can be a lot. You can also see here that if you tap not enlarge text, it should show the large content viewer. But if you do this correctly, your app will still be very nice, even at a very large text size. So, most common issues that you encounter while doing dynamic text. A lot of apps really, really like their branding. Companies like their branding, and with their branding comes custom fonts. If you have implemented a random custom font, chances are it doesn't resize properly or at all. So take care of that. It is possible to make it sure that custom fonts resize. It's not that hard, it's just a little bit of upfront work. It doesn't introduce any very special gotchas, so it's safe, but you have to do the work. And horizontally laid elements, so buttons side to side, they're going to be very, very squished. So either your text is gone, or your button suddenly takes up half the screen, which you don't want. So you might consider stacking buttons if they are on really large text sizes, like you show here. Like you have to show 166 elements or cancel because I don't want to be here anymore. VoiceOver. Let's see, this one might be loud, so let's see if it all works. So VoiceOver, to start with, is basically that it allows you to hear your screen. I think most people are already familiar with it, or at least have heard about it. But it basically means that every element on the screen that is informative should also be spoken aloud. So that a person that is, for example, has sight issues, is in the dark, doesn't want their light on, but can make sounds, so no cinemas people, can still use their phone.
VoiceOver on. ABN Investments app back button. Self-service button. Self-directed overview heading. Contract number 1234XXX. Orders 1 sent, 1 rejected, 1 current, 1 executed, 1 withdrawn, 1 expired, 1 cancellation request pending, 1 cancelled, 1 other button. Your investments are currently worth €588.52. Your result since you started investing is €2,034.00. This is a growth of 500%. Activate to change the period for which you want to see your results button. Actions available.
So you can see here, back button gets its own special case. All buttons have like the button trait. Headers get the header trait. And you can decide or not decide, depending on what you want, to embellish some views. Because, for example, this one is sparser visually than it is audibly, because we actually make it a sentence in the VoiceOver, which is either nice or not nice. I'll get back to that later. So, most common issues when you are creating things for VoiceOver. Lots of times people forget about the header trait. If you have anywhere some kind of text that's a little bit larger than the rest of the text because it indicates stuff below it, give it the header trait. It's important. It will fail your audit if you do not do this. And another common one is buttons. Buttons also often forget the button trait, which doesn't happen if you use native controls. but for some reason we hate native controls. We make very fancy views and then just add an on tap and we're done. But on tap doesn't get the button trait. So you need to add it yourself with the accessibility add traits view modifier for Swift-wires. And there's also link. Link replaces the button, and it's usually used when you go outside of your app or to a website or to another app. You can use link instead of button. And there's a lot more. Android has even more types of traits, which is a lot of fun. But there's a lot of things over there. So voice control. I didn't know about this one, but I've learned it's also a lot of fun. You can actually talk to your screen. It will. You can actually say tap back, tap stop, tap. What do we have here? Brunel. And then it will perform this action for you if you pronounce this correctly and if it doesn't go Siri on you. And if you want to know, yes, but how do I speak this thing that you are saying? You can actually just tell it, hey, show me all the names. And it will give you all the names that of all the controls that you can have. And if for some reason this is not enough, you can also say show numbers, and you just give every control a number, and you can just say tap 8, and it'll be fine. So very common issues with voice control. Voice control is very specific, where VoiceOver wants to know about everything on your screen. Voice control assumes that your user is sighted enough. They just have other problems, other wishes, other needs. So what happens then is that non-interactive elements should not count. If you put them in voice control, if you see a non-interactive element being in voice control, that's wrong. Will also fail your audit. And again, this often happens when you use non-native controls, or when you try to be smart about controls. For example, lots of people have cells in their apps, and cells often are not interactive, but sometimes they have like more information button. Yes, but it's a cell, and I made all of them non-interactive. But what if I add an on tap, and if there's no action, the on tap is just an empty closure? Voice control knows about this and makes it immediately a proper element. So you have to actually hide this from accessibility or make sure it doesn't show up in voice control, usually by getting rid of the on tap. Another one is people are hard at work. They finally finished all the VoiceOver work. It was tough, but that one view that you have with like 10 data points in there, it now has a proper sentence that's set. But this is the exact same sentence that will count as the input control label, which is horrible if you have 10 data points that are like the sentence that you have to say. Tap. Brunel, weird gibberish because investment stock, which is also 138 value, and then suddenly you lose track and it's not tapping anything. So you should add shorter labels. You should have like one small, simple command that you can do, and you can put in many of them. You can have, if it's a list, you can have like item 1, Brunel, just the entire name of it. There's multiple options that you can do, and you can speak all of them. It'll be fine. They don't even have to be unique, very important. You don't have to have unique input labels all on your screen, because if it detects duplicates, it will ask the user, okay, which one do you want? Just tell me a number. Full keyboard access. There are many users that have issues using their hands. They maybe have muscle problems. Maybe they also have an extreme case of RSI, when you also don't want to start typing with your finger. So they use keyboards, they use alternative big bad keyboards. There's a lot of ways that people can benefit by using full keyboard access. And full keyboard access follows many of the same rules as voice control does. You can see here, it goes through containers. And the blue thing that you see moving there is the focus. So also here, very important, non-interactive elements do not get focus. If you do that, you failed somehow. So, but hopefully if you do the voice control one properly, this will also be a lot simpler. So indeed the same. Another big trap which comes with color contrast is that you saw that it's like a very light bluish tint for the focus. Sometimes that doesn't work. For example, if you have a very nice blue button or any other darker button, it will not show. It will not give enough contrast. So the user might not know it's currently focused. This will also fail your audit when you are when you're being checked, because hey, I do not see this button being selected. Yes, but it is selected. Look at it. No, you need a better focus area. And there's ways that you can do that. You can assign focus areas yourself. You can enlarge it. You can make a different color. But you need to do something about it. And what also sometimes happens is that you create keyboard traps. Especially with custom modal controls, sometimes you forget that your close button also has to be accessible. And a keyboard user will not be able to escape, which is highly annoying. You can solve this by doing the magic escape gesture. There's a actual method for that. I think it's also a view modifier on in SwiftUI, but you can perform the magic the escape gesture and tell it what to do when that happens. So we're up there. Now, next up, you should always know yourself and know your enemy. But what does this mean? Well, basically it means our own worst enemy is usually ourselves as well. Or in this case, our app is our worst enemy, especially in big companies, large teams. ABN has 12 teams on their app. Is this necessary? Probably not. Somehow they still manage to do it. So this team, this app grows in multiple ways, multiple branches, and my team doesn't know what the other team is doing. This is completely normal. It's medium healthy. You don't want to know about everything, but you still want to know something. But there's a lot going on. So if you really want to get your app accessible, step one, make sure your app is cataloged. Make sure you know what the purpose is of your app. What is the main purpose of your app? Are you messaging? Is this a chat app with patients? Is this a patient record system? All those things. Is this a banking app? Do I transfer money just, or do I also get an insurance? Important things. So document your app, document your most important flows, your main flows, and most importantly also the flows that people actually use. If you accidentally made a very nice timer and now people are only using your app for the timer, also very much part of the most important flow in your app. Then actually get an audit. Get this out of the way early. Don't wait until someone decides to investigate you. But just grab a company that's preferably one that's accredited and tell them, listen, do I comply with the law? And the answer will be no. But they will very much tell you how far along you are. And they will then you will have the auditor over. You will discuss with the auditor, okay, these are the flows that I want you to check. You will ask you, are you sure these are the only flows that you want me to check? For now, yes. Which is also good. If you say for now, then they're happy because that means you'll just invite them back. And they will give you a very big report of everything that went wrong. Usually while you are well testing and you can be with their testing. So how do you get an accredited inspector? You can find them, for example, here. So there's a site called Drempelvrij, which is the site that gives a seal of approval on your website. You can also get it for the apps. And there are two organizations on there. First one is company, the other one is organization, that you can ask, can you do an audit of my app? And if they pass it, it's a proper audit. If they do not, because they are accredited organizations. If you want, main drawback of these two is that they're very web focused, so all their app knowledge is growing. And they will make very weird statements sometimes. And it's like, yeah, but that's a website thing. Oh yeah, you are correct. But if you want an app-focused audit, you can ask, for example, there's another company, organization that's called apt.org, and abra.ai is kind of the same thing. You can ask them, and they won't be an accredited company, but they will help you much more in the app specialized audits. And this will be the result. Just for context, ABN has a very large app. We were complimented on the fact that our app was so very accessible. And when they got finished and we compiled everything, we had 1,000 tickets. Now, that sounds scary, but many of them are like, oh yeah, this button is not marked as a button. Oh yeah, that's that component, okay. Make sure the component is marked as a button, okay. That's 100 tickets already, but still, it's a lot of tickets. So, get cracking. Start early, do it often. Create some kind of focus point. Maybe you just do one accessibility ticket in the first hour of the day, something like that, but try to get into a habit. And this will help a lot. So, now that you are creating your app, you're making it accessible, it's going well, and suddenly you get across an extremely annoying issue. So there's a couple of common pitfalls that happen a lot. First off, this one is very annoying. Remember the caveat I mentioned with accessibility settings? These do not count during your audit. You cannot say, yes, but if people with high contrast issues, they turn on the high contrast setting. And the auditor would like, sorry, doesn't count. And you know what has not enough contrast? The iOS native switch toggle. Yes, that was a very fun conversation. Now, thankfully, there's a lot of these that are currently not being counted, but all the W3 organizations and allied organizations that are accrediting these things have heard this, because every company is complaining about it. So they're currently dealing with this. They're currently making sure that they have some kind of ruling on this. And they're probably going to start allowing these kinds of settings to actually count during audits. So we can be happy about that. But for now, they don't count. So either find an alternative or wait until they hopefully do count, but that's a risk. All iOS developers' banes, especially if you come in later at the company, custom stuff. The designer saying, yes, but Android and iOS have to be the same. Look, the pixels are off. And this is when you start subclassing the navigation controller, doing all kinds of weird stuff, making your body sheets different. Okay. Or, same issue. Yes, but this native bottom sheet doesn't have enough configuration power. I need more. I need to have a scale with an animation that is exactly this. No, please don't. Because then you end up with stuff like this. And it's going to show a bottom sheet. A bottom sheet is modal, as everyone knows. And I want to remind you, non-interactive stuff doesn't count.
Dynamic. User can dismiss with sticky footer button. Components back button. Close button. Here my tail heading. Close button. Close button. Here my tail head close button. Toggle content height. Core underscore icon far away. Behind the sticky footer button. Dismiss pop up. Dynamic. User can dismiss with sticky footer button. Dynamic. User can't dismiss.
This will also fail your audit. Those buttons behind that should all be disabled and non-focusable, non-interactive. But we made some kind of weird bottom sheet and we're paying for it now. Next up, landscape. This is mandatory now. So everyone that doesn't have this into account is screwed. Now, very technically, this will pass audit. Because the rule is you need to have one line of text visible completely. So but don't tell your manager that. Because this is a horrible experience for obvious reasons. So reconsider everything that's sticky on your app. Visual changes. If something changes on your screen that is important, you must announce it. So accessibility technologies you can focus on things, which is the nuclear option for announcing stuff, but you can also just post an announcement, which works. So if you have an important milestone, for example, while you're downloading something and it reaches 25%, if you're mentioning 25% on your screen, announce it. If you have some kind of text validation error and you're typing and it pops up the error, announce the error and you do not lose focus, it will be fine. If you have a toast message that pops up, you announce a toast message. For example, we have here a text field
type
error.
666 for error. Text field. Double tap to edit. Insertion point attend. 6. 6. 6. Oh no, this is a grave error.
See? And you can see that the focus is still on the text field and everything is as the user expected, but they got a notice from, hey, I did something wrong in text field. This is very useful for them. They don't have to swipe past and then discover they did it wrong. So you can announce things. Also, a very important one. Once you get started in accessibility and you're dealing with everything, at some point you're going to think, this is weird, or this shouldn't happen, or I could probably do this better. Please don't. Whatever you're thinking of, it's our job as people that want to implement accessibility to only fill in the fields, only fill in the accessibility label, only fill in the proper traits, only fill in the proper use labels, all that stuff. And the technologies are responsible for interpreting all of that. This is basically like your browser interpreting HTML in different ways. It's not your fault, you did the HTML, it's the browser's fault. So do not try to fix them. So, for example, voice-over pronunciations. A lot of people like to fix these. And because sometimes things happen and voice-over pronounces them weirdly. Date and time often get mispronounced because it suddenly decides that 9 o'clock is 09, period, 00. Okay, it's weird, but still understandable. Money often gets mispronounced. 900,000 gets pronounced as 900 euros dot 000. Dot 00. Or identifiers, IBAN numbers, it sees a very long number and decides that that should be pronounced properly, which in the case of an IBAN number is very, very bad, because then you just get, what number is this? I want to hear 1234, not 1243. So, for example, here, told you about money.
You own 800 euros assets of 5% ABN /euros/201220022 that hold a total value of 891,280 euros and 0 cents. This is a 52% loss since the start of the day. The current price per asset is 111.41%. Item 5 of 5, link.
Yeah. So what happened here is we had this constantly kept getting mispronounced for some reason. We didn't figure it out. Well, we did figure it out. I'm going to tell you about it later. But it got mispronounced. So what we did to fix it, someone spent a lot of time to finding every possible way that you can pronounce this in English and Dutch. And we converted to that text. Yes, voiceover works now. Pat on back. Everyone is happy. Everyone except people that use Braille readers. So if they handle your, if a blind person handles your app with a Braille reader, suddenly that entirely pronounced string that could have been on one rule for the Braille reader, now it's like 5 lines of text, which is a horrible experience. So we don't want it. So this happens whenever you try to fix something that you think is wrong in accessibility tech. Basically, trust in people and trust that they know their technology. It is allowed for a monetary thing to be mispronounced. If someone gets annoyed by that, they can go back and listen to the entire thing again by character. This is a known habit. They know that everything gets mispronounced anyway. So this is a thing that happens. This is a thing that they do. Trust your users, trust the technology that they decide to use, and well, try to stay within the fields. And if you really must, you can do these kinds of things. You can say, hey, this one thing, make it an attribute string, add the spell out attribute. That means that it will literally spell things out, like N, L, 1, 2. It will do everything, including spaces and capitals. But again, don't mind that. Or if you have really ambiguous strings, like is that read, as in the verb, or is that this has been read? This is one of your read items. You can actually provide a speech notation if you want. This is also useful, for example, for brand names. You can find the actual speech notation for your brand names and use those wherever you mention your own brand. If you do it like this, by the way, your translators will hate you. Do not override your system language. Do not provide something in your app that says, "Oh, you can see the app in English as well, or in Dutch, or in German." No, don't do that. If you want to have that, point them to your settings, please. Because if not, you're going to break everything at some point. All the times that we got our currency mispronounced, it's because we are providing an in-app language selector, which we're currently getting rid of. And there's lots more. Everything in your app counts. It's not just your own code. It's all it's the in-app webflow that you point to. It's the PDF that you allow for download. If you have a video, you should be able to pause it, make it faster, make it slower. It has to have audio captions, audio descriptions, a lot of stuff. Dynamically load content, timed content such as toasts. If they disappear, you're probably doing it wrong because those are, again, bad for people with attention deficiencies. So there's a lot of things that we think is normal, which is actually not accessible, and people are going to notice now. Everyone still with me? Good. Okay, so once you're doing all of that, and I want to emphasize, start with the easy stuff, because the easy stuff will get you like 80% of the way there. But once you are getting serious, you'll notice that being serious about accessibility is across the company. You have to create a culture. Bos in the Broek recently had a presentation on this in Swift Leads, where he actually talks about this. And I'm going to speak a little bit about this myself as well. But you have to start talking to people, basically to everyone in your company about the need for this. Talk to your PO, your product owner, they're important. And for product owner, I also mean higher management. But make sure that you can focus on this. Make sure that you can focus a sprint on this, and preferably more sprints, because the first sprint will be slow. If you're new to this, if you're getting started, getting the hang of accessibility technologies, you'll be slow. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. You're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to decide a lot of stuff. And the next sprints will be faster and faster and faster. But you need the multiple sprints. Talk to your UX team. Accessibility should be designed from the ground up. You hear this often, and it could look a little bit like this. This is now under the definition of ready for, definition of done for designers. You need to have a lot of accessibility already baked in. So you can see here that we already create focus orders for this nice notification banner here. You go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and the close button is 5. It's the last one. But there's also an I there. That I can change to a neutral message. This is an information message. There's neutral, and there is urgent, alert, error, stuff like that. And we don't want the developer to constantly add error to this. So we, in the design already, it says, okay, if this is an error, it should be prefixed with this localization key. If it's neutral, it should be prefixed with this. All of those things should be inside of the design already. So you can see here this, all icon buttons also fun. Your save button should also have like a save string attached to it. And all color tokens, while designers are busy making their very nice color palettes, color tokens, and see all the background stuff, convince them to also make a high contrast version while they're at it. It'll be easier if they think about it now. Backend team. But what do they have to do with accessibility? Well, also a lot. For example, lots of apps use some kind of dynamic content. Not because iOS developers, app developers are lazy, but because there's a lot of stuff that changes constantly, especially if marketing is involved. Marketing often has like their own CMS system that converts stuff to some kind of HTML and then just pumps it. And it used to be fine. Okay, we have this kind of web view and looks kind of like our app. It's fine. But now it's not anymore, because if you use the web view, then maybe it'll be kind of fine, but some people just use a lot of text, and then you have 5 paragraphs of text in one view, which should have been broken up into 5 pieces of text, 1 for each paragraph, 1 for each item in a bulleted list. All those things. So start making agreements with backends. Start ensuring, okay, if you're going to use HTML, yes, please keep it to the easy part. We can parse this. We can create blocks of this. You can also go full server-driven UI. Tom, if you grab him after his talk, he can talk to you more about that. And also when, for example, Bolt.com has one of the SEO-driven names for their Barbie doll with pink and kitchen and for girls and all the stuff attached. Horrible. Also try to convince backend, can you please figure out like a shorter name that people can speak? And if not, you have to make it yourself. Just grab the first word that's actually a word and then just mention that. But backend can help you a lot as well. Fellow developers, we like this. Share the fun. It's not just you. It's not just all of you making small incremental changes, which is fine and it's great. But make sure that everyone gets to join in. If you fixed something, if you found something, don't just keep it to yourself or just for your pull request buddy, but tell other people, tell someone that you fixed this weird accessibility bug that you found. Or grab someone, ask them, hey, how would you pronounce this if you were if you couldn't use the app itself? How would you? I have no idea how to fix this button. Why is it not getting a trait? Get someone to pair with you and explain to them what the problem is, and they can try to help you solve it. And that way, start creating a little bit of bigger culture around accessibility. Grab your Android folks, see if you can achieve parity. Things like those. Automation. Management loves pipelines. If it's green, it's good. So you can start automating things. I can promise you this will not become green, but it will give you at least a baseline. So you can have a baseline of Xcode that is performing an accessibility audit. It will find all kinds of issues, many of which are false positives or are just weird. But it will also find actual issues. So as, for example, this contrast field. We're not entirely sure yet if this is an actual contrast issue, because it's also a disabled button. But it's found that and is trying to warn us, hey, this gray on gray text may be very bad for some users. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing to know. And Xcode also allows you to skip certain checks and certain tests once you found all the false positives. So you can still get your nice green check mark for the pipeline. And if you want this on Android as well, on web as well, try finding tools that do this as well. Because, for example, Abra.ai, I mentioned Abra before. They're making a tool currently that checks, that basically perform the same check. They also have a couple of additional own rules that they put in there. But the nice part is that they make a report, and they also do Android. They also do web. So you can have all the same type of reports together, which means that you have like only one report that you can check instead of 3 different types of reports, which is very nice. Assemble an A-team. Once you get tired of doing it on your own, get some like-minded people, create a guild, a workforce, a task force, an investigation group, whatever management wants to call it. But try to create a group with people, try to get together regularly, 1 day every 2 weeks, get a lunch together, start fixing issues or start asking each other questions. The important part here is not that you actually fix your issues or other people's issues, but that you start creating knowledge, creating articles, creating presentations, that you create opportunities to teach the rest of the company with the people that really, really want this. And most importantly, who has a guess? What, most importantly, what was the most important thing that you have to talk about? I like this. This is the second time I hear this. But, yes, I heard it in the back. Actually talk with people that have disabilities. Talk with the people that we're doing this for. This is important because they always come up with insights that you do not get from somewhere else. So, and you have to do this continuously. Try to get some kind of system in there. Make sure, approach organizations that can help you get into contact with it so you are not the raving lunatic that is accosting everyone that has a wheelchair. But approach organizations, try to get them into your focus groups of the company. Hey, can you achieve this task in our app? You are using my app. Can you help me test the app because we're trying to improve it for you? Invite them to test flight. Make sure they get their issues early, so you can fix them before they reach all the other people. And if it's very possible, HR always has a strong how do you call it, problem with this. But try to hire disabled developers. How do you reach these disabled developers? Same organizations. Grab an organization that caters to some kind of group with disabilities and give them the vacancies. Just actively give those people vacancies. And suddenly you will have more disabled people apply for them. Because currently they're just dependent on very, very weird job websites that also have very, very bad accessibility. Thank you all for listening. Not sure how long this was, but time for questions?
As I have the microphone, I can do the first question. I was wondering, does localization also fall under accessibility? If your app is only in English, will it fail a Dutch test, or a German, or a French, or a Croatian?
No.
Cool.
One thing that maybe didn't fit, maybe I didn't mention, the fun part about accessibility is not adding information. And other good languages can't. Localizing your app is inclusivity. It's making sure everyone else also gets to use it. Where accessibility is making sure everyone gets to use it, so basically. Okay. And not adding information also means, fun one for everyone, don't add information in your accessibility code. If your accessibility code is suddenly providing way more information than is on screen, you're also doing something wrong. But I like the question, thank you.
Any other questions?
Here.
Do I have to push it?
You have to eat it.
Just talk into it. It's a microphone.
No, here.
Hello, testing. Well, I'm trying to figure out, for example, if I'm making a designer app, for example, a graphics editor, how accessible is that supposed to be? Because I expect people, at least are able to use ARMs. I think. I'm not sure. How does this work?
Well, first off, it works. But indeed, you are correct. You're picking like a very, very hard problem. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with making things like a graphics editor accessible? I cannot give you any other answer than lots of hard work and lots of testing.
But is that supposed? Say I started an app now. Am I supposed to? Does it have to be accessible for all people by by next year, or
no. If you are just starting your indie app and your user base is probably less than 10, less than 100, less than 1,000, you don't count for the law. I mean, the law still exists, but you're not going to be one of the people audited for it. But for example, Adobe stands a very high chance of being audited for this stuff.
What are they going to do?
Make their app accessible, hopefully. I mean, there's lots of talk about people without use of their arms using Krita for making beautiful art. So, but Krita puts effort into this.
Interesting. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have two questions. One of them is, for example, if you start working on accessibility and making things accessible, it's quite easy to make, for example, the mistake to change the first accessibility element because you think as a user instead of a disabled person. And I'm wondering, what is your workflow into getting your first source of truth? Because I think we lack a little bit of documentation on how an accessibility user really works. And my second question is, what do you think about disabling or hiding certain information within your app for accessibility users? For example, making the choice of not displaying a video.
Okay. So the second one is easier. This will fill you with the audit because you're withholding information from a disabled group. And that's always a no-go in accessibility's case. So you can change it to help accommodate users. I mean, this happens often with large text. You can switch from horizontal to vertical, and it will become better. But outright not showing stuff to people is always a bad thing. As for the second question, do you mean like the order of things, focus orders? What?
For example, in my case, we had our PO asking about changing the first accessibility element to a certain element in the screen, which was in the middle. But after doing some extensive research, I found out that you should never change the order of accessibility elements because the back button is the first thing you want to tell the user where it is.
Yes, you are correct. One of the things that is key in accessibility is also predictability.
Yeah.
Now, iOS itself is not very good at this. For some reason, it switches around where it wants to start, whether it's on the first header element or the back button. But you should generally try, unless it's very, very important, to not touch the, well, yeah, indeed, the order that you get into when the screen shows. Exceptions to this are, for example, people often focus on text field to facilitate easy typing, fast typing. Yes, very much do that. It'll be fine. And then your manager will ask you, but now people don't hear what that is about. It doesn't matter. If it's an important flow, they will come across it often, they will learn. And if it's their first time and they're confused, they go one step back. Here, oh, this is the name field. And then go back and then type in their name. It'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Any last question? No?
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question, maybe a bit weird. For example, imagine you have a application which implements server-driven UI,
yes.
And with dynamic UI, like many different components. Where would you put responsibility for accessibility, to the backend side or to the app side?
Well, both, obviously, but that is a good one. I think the biggest part of the responsibility still lies with the basically with the front end. I mean, the front end interprets the back end and knows what is happening. So it knows this is a button, so it has to have a button trait. It knows this button will navigate to something else. So it has to create a new screen with elements that are properly laid out. Where the backend gets a responsibility is when, if you get at the point that you are doing server-driven UI, then your backend also knows what the UI is going to be. They don't have the excuse that they don't know what's happening. So they are suddenly responsible for stuff like shorten names for input labels. Focus orders are suddenly their problem as well. So they have to think about that and try to accommodate the front-end developer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno.
Thank
and
you
then
again.
We'll have a 15-minute break, I think. About 15 minutes, and after that, Tom Lokhorst will pick up the next presentation. Thank you.
Ooh, oh yeah, I also want to make a video. Selfie. Hey, I'm here making a presentation. Look. Okay, so that's, I just made a video. That's what the talk is about, how to make videos. And yeah, for the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot with video. And if you dive into video on Apple platforms, you run into stuff like this. And it's a whole lot of stuff. And when you first see it, it looks very complicated. But it turns out it's not that complicated if you, you know, learn what it all means. So I want to go over some of these things, but I want to go back first to start at the beginning, go back a lot. So in the 1800s, people started making photographs. The first photographic devices were created. And not long after that, people started doing things like this, trying to create lots of photos, one after the other, so that you could have multiple photographs that you can play after each other or look at each other. So that one over there takes 12 photographs after each other. And this is a photographic gun. What's it called? Chronophotography, like photography over time. And you can use this to take photographs of birds flying. And they also used it in the First World War to practice shooting enemy planes. Instead of using bullets, you could just take photographs of the enemy planes, and then you can, during practice runs, and see if you hit them, and it didn't cost any bullets. So these were one of the first couple of ways to create multiple photos over time, and that results in stuff like this. So this is one of the first moving pictures, the horse in motion. And this is the way we look at it, because we have a display that can show multiple photos. But most of the time, when people back in those days looked at it, they just saw those, because there was no display device. You had those devices where you can rotate a thing and look through a slide, but if you just print it in some magazine, then that's what it looks like. Or you can overlay all the photos on top of each other. And that way you can also see what something looks like. And this was often used for scientific research, like how do people actually move? Because you can't see it, you need to make, if you look at somebody pole jumping, you don't know exactly what they do, but if you make a lot of photographs, then you can look back in time and see what happened. Same for how do birds actually fly. So back in those days, there was the first usage of motion video was for scientific research, and then over time also for the stuff we use it now. Actually, these kind of pictures are really cool. This is one from 1 or 2 weeks ago when a rocket, 17-meter tall rocket, fell back from space and was caught by 2 little chopsticks. And this is a composite photo of that. So yeah, I, together with Matthijs, we have a company called Nonstrict, and we build apps. These are 2 of those apps. Bazel is an app for, is a Mac app. You can plug in your iPhone to your Mac, and then your iPhone shows up on your Mac, and you can see a live mirror of your iPhone. We recently added recording to that so that you can record what's on your iPhone, and it includes a nice bezel around it. And if you like you rotate your phone, it's a whole video gets created with a nice rotating phone. So that's a lot of video stuff. This is another app, Split Screen. We built this together with Jordi Bruin. This is an app for your Vision Pro, where it mirrors or it creates a second display in your Vision Pro of your Mac. So if you use Apple's Mac Virtual Display, you have one display, but if you want a second one, you can use split screen. And it wirelessly sends a second video from your Mac to your Vision Pro. So we do a lot of video stuff, and that's what I want to talk about, how video actually works under the hood. So yes, so what I wanted to do was just code and build some video stuff out of nothing, basically. So yeah, I have a lot of stuff I want to code. I printed some of it out for me to remember. I have some other tabs open of commented out code which I want to copy paste. We'll see how well this goes. If you have some questions about something I'm doing because it's not clear, then please ask it. I'll repeat the question. Because if you don't ask the question, I just keep going and then we might lose what we're talking about. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, Xcode. Okay, so this is the app. This is basically the standard Hello World app. Doesn't do anything yet. And I want to create a video, a motion, a moving picture. But like we saw before, a video is nothing more than a series of images. So we start by creating an image. And what is an image? Yeah, actually, what is an image? Who knows the answer? What is an image fundamentally? What do you think? A picture, a bitmap? Yeah, Vince. Yes. Yes, black and white are colors in our, for our use case, black and white are colors, definitely. Okay, so yes, colors in a grid, and we call those pixels. So let's just build that. Okay, so struct color. Here, let's create a color. What is a color? Red, green, and blue. Let's do it easy. uint8, sure, that's a byte. Now we can have 256, yeah. Different colors of reds, green, blue, sure. Okay, so now we have a color. Yeah, this is a color. Let's make some colors. So extension color, static, let black. Yeah, this is black, right? What did you say? White is also a color, sure. This is white. So if you know those hex colors where you have FF000, that is this, but now in byte format, in integer format. So yeah, let's red, sure. I really like this new, it just knows, this is green, sure. Blue, whatever. Yeah, okay, so this, now we have a bunch of colors. Now we can create colors, our own colors, not Swift colors, Swift UI's colors. Okay, but we wanted to create an image, so we want to create a bitmap. So let's do that. Bitmap. A bitmap is an array of pixels, and each pixel is a color. And we need one more thing, because now we have one long bitmap, but we need dimensions like width and height. Otherwise, we don't know, is this one pixel all the way, or does it wrap around? So we can have a width and a height. And actually, the height is all the colors divided by the width. That is what the height is. Okay, so this is a bitmap. Everything clear so far. This, yeah, it's starting to look like an image somewhat, not yet. Let's do some more helper stuff, like yeah, okay, so now we have an image that's all black of a certain width and height. If we want to change individual pixels, we can do that too. So this Xcode is tremendous here. So now we have a subscript, which means we can access the, if we have a bitmap, access it so. We can do stuff like self set the first pixel to white because of this subscript. Okay, so now we have a bitmap, but I want to create an actual image, not some big black square rectangle. So I want to create the Dutch flag because I'm a proud Dutchman, also because it's a very easy thing to create. So let's do a flag. Func flag. Flag is a bitmap. Let's make it 920 because we want to do a full HD video. Yeah, no, okay, not this one. I want multiple stripes because the Dutch flag is 3 stripes. And the pixels are an array repeating. Not okay. Now it's going wrong. A single stripe, a single red stripe. That is the width of our image times the number, a third of the height. So now we have a red bar here, and we can do white and do blue. And now we do return bitmap pixels width. Now we have a very beautiful Dutch flag. Doesn't it look amazing? Except we can't see it yet, so we need to change to show it. And to show something in on iOS, we are like here. If we have an image like this, we need to use the image tag in SwiftUI. Or if we use UIKit, we use a UI image. On the Mac, we use an NS image. And behind all that is a CG image, which is a core graphics image. So if we can turn this into a core graphics image, then we can ultimately show it on screen. And to do that, we will create a function, create CG image from bitmap, exactly. So what we need is, now we need to do some technical stuff to make it a CG image, and it's interesting to see how it works, so I just want to type it out. Bytes per pixel, the number of bytes per pixel is exactly the stride of the memory layout, the bytes, actually bytes per pixel I want to call it. It helps the magical autocomplete. The bytes per row is exactly this. We have data in memory, which is, if you've ever used the data thing in the bitmap pixels, and it consists of the bytes per row times the bitmap height. So now we have turned our pixel array into a data array that we use, or a data object, but it's still basically the same shape. And now we can take this data and create an CG image from that. So if we create, this is CG image stuff that you just need to know to make it work. But you just keep pressing tab and it magically fixes it. Actually it's not correct, I see. Okay, so the CG, The CG image constructor takes a bunch of arguments. So the width is the bitmap width, the height is the height, the bits per component. So these things are the components, and they are uint8, which is a byte, which is 8-bit. So that means there's this many bits per component, 8. The bits per pixel is the number of bytes per pixel times 8. The bytes per row is correct. The color space is RGB, which is indeed what we want. The bitmap info, we can use this for alpha, but we don't have transparency in the image. What else is there? Okay, if it doesn't complete, I don't know what to type. Escape. Oh, great. Okay, that's fantastic. Escape. Provider. Yeah, that's the provider created above. Escape. Decode. We don't need to decode anything. Should interpolate, sure, and the defaults. I don't know what this is. This is this part of the code is from oh, I forgot his name. That's very unfortunate. I saw it on Objective-CIO. They have a great series on how to do video games, how to create video games, and which also starts off like this. And that's where I got this from. Nick, what's his name? Yeah, Chris Eithoff does the talk, but he did it together with Nick. Yes, Lockwood. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Nick Woodlook, and he did this this as well. So add a bunch of exclamation marks, and now we have a CG image. And now that we have a CG image, we can actually show it. So if we have an extension on the Swift image, we can have an initializer that takes a bitmap and that does this decorative create CG image from bitmap. The scale of the image is 1. And now instead of this globe here, we'll just do a flag. And we have a flag. So this already, I think, is really cool. Do I have a slide for this? I think so. Yes. So because this is compressed pixel data, and we just wrote it out by hand like this, but this is also the way stuff works in memory. If you have, like, if you have a camera feed coming in from a webcam or from the MacBook camera or on your iPhone from your camera, it comes in basically the same data structure. If you're screen recording on Mac, it gives you the same data structure. It's uncompressed pixel buffer data that you need to deal with. And one thing you can do is just show it on screen, because in the graphics card, it's also uncompressed pixel data. And this is doable to directly show it on screen. Except it's kind of boring. So I have a little, here's my helper stuff. Let's make it a little bit nicer. Where is it? So the fancy flag function we have here, I'll just modify it a bit. So I added a sign function so that now the flag can wave. And now the flag does a little nice wave. And the way this works, you don't need to read this, but it's just moving pixels a bit based on the way you are in the sign. And actually, because we're in Swift UI, we can do something like a timeline view, have an animation that takes in a context and pass the context date in there, and then the flag function, give it a time. And now the flag is moving. we have a motion picture. And this works because it's SwiftUI, and SwiftUI just calls our flag function every time it updates the UI. I don't know how often this happens, probably once per render frame, 60 times per second. But if SwiftUI is busy and it skips a frame, or my app is blocking the main thread or the render thread or something, then it would just skip a frame, move a bit, but the time that gets passed in here still correct. So it would just have a little jump in the video, but you would still see this nice animation. So this works. One thing that's interesting is how much data is actually going through, because now this is all uncompressed video memory. So to look that up, I have this function. Let's just print it. So this is all the data going by. I have the bytes per pixel times the resolution of this image, which is full HD, times 60, because we're doing 60 frames per second, times the number of seconds that has passed. So yeah, that's a lot of data. It's going by, it's not being kept in memory, because every time it updates, it creates a new image. But this also makes it clear why, if you have a big external monitor with a very high resolution, you need a fat wire Thunderbolt cable, because it needs to put a lot of data through that cable, and that's all uncompressed image data. Okay, so if we want, this is now SwiftUI, but if we want to create a video file, we need to save it. But this is starting to get a lot of data. We can't just save it like this. I mean, we can, but yeah, your hard disk will fill up quickly. Yeah, okay, so now I want to move on to the next part, which is saving it. And for that, I have this button, make video, which calls this function over here, which currently doesn't do anything. It creates a file called movie, and that's it, which has no data in it. But what I want to do is create a video from this nice flag animation that we have here. And I'll just create a 60-second video, which is 60 frames, and we'll save that. 1 second video. So, yeah, I said a minute. Okay, 1 second of video. So actually, let's see how much data that would be. 1 second of video would be, in this format, 356 megabytes, which I also don't want to store to disk, because my disk is almost full. Let's create, so I need all those video frames, and I'll create them, because we have a function for that anyway. So I want to call the bitmap function flag, but I need a time. This isn't good. I want the time, which is 1 divided by 60. I don't know how to do floats, how to make sure they're floats, but now they are. Okay, so now I'm creating the bitmaps, 60 bitmaps, which is that many megabytes, and I'll turn them into JPEGs, because then I can save those to disk. That's a lot smaller than bitmaps. So I need a CG image, which is the create CG image function from the bitmap. Then I can create a UI image from the CG image. And then I can create data from the UI image, which has a nice useful function for that. Now I have JPEG data, and I can let's just print it to know that it's working, and then write it to a file. It's optional. Now it's not. Write to in my directory. I want a pending path, a file called image.jpg. Okay. So I'll run the app and hit make video and tap over to the directory. And now it starts creating all the video frames. And here it's looping, and now it's done. It took 6 seconds to do that. This is the most efficient way to create a 1-second video, but now we have, I can just click through them. I have a very slow, but it's, I mean, if JPEG, I have 60 JPEG frames for each part of the video, then it's working. And also, if I look at this directory, it is just 4 megabytes. So that's like a 10th or a hundredth almost of the data. So this is a way more efficient format to use to create JPEGs for instead of creating bitmaps. And this is my second thing, because this is already very useful. If you have like a live webcam feed, they often use MJPEG or MJPEG videos, which are just JPEGs one after each other. If you have a Raspberry Pi with a webcam, they also often have this format. If you have an MJPEG, you can just show it in an image tag on your website, and all that is an open socket, an open HTTP request to which JPEGs are written. And that works really well because a single image like this is only 67 kilobytes and 4 megabytes per second. And this is a full resolution. If you have a smaller resolution, it wouldn't be that much data. So this is already a big upgrade over the previous way, and already very useful. And what this is basically is we have keyframes. The keyframe is the whole image. So we have the whole image for every time, every single video part we want to show, we show the whole image. And this is basically the same way like those photographs work from the 1800s. And if you compress it like in JPEG, that's useful already. But we can do better because we have video compression APIs. And the way they work is you have, instead of keyframes every time, you create delta frames, like the difference, store only the difference from the previous frame. In this example, a lot of the part is red and never changes, and the other part is white and never changes, and the other part is blue and never changes. And you only need to store the differences. And that's what video compression does. The keyframes are called iframes, and the p frames only contain the differences from the previous frames. Yeah, so, and the way we do that with Apple's APIs, there is a thing called a VT compression session from Video Toolbox, which is an object you can create, and then you can call the encode frame function on it. So the reason you need to create an object, because like the code I just showed, you can just call create JPEG on every frame, and that works. But now we need to create an object because it needs memory. The session object retains what the previous frame was, and then it can calculate the difference from the subsequent frames that are passed in. So you need to have a session object and call the encode frame function on it each time. and then you get back a compressed video frame. So here we don't need to read all this, but because Video Toolbox is all C code and it's not nice Objective-C or Swift code with objects, it's all functions like this. Video or compression session create, give it a bunch of arguments. It is a weird syntax for setting properties. I put it all in this function, create compression session, and then there's a function called encode frame, which calls Apple's VT compression session encodes frame function. And I just wrapped it so I can make it asynchronous, which is easier to deal with than a callback. So let's do that. So instead of all this JPEG stuff, I'll create a compression session. Try create compression session. The compression session needs a thing called a pixel buffer, but that's just a wrapper around the same data that we had before, similar to a CG image. It wraps the data from the bitmap. So I'll create a pixel buffer from the CG image. Pixel buffer. And now I can pass it on to the compression session. So it returns a sample buffer, which I know, try await session encode frame pixel buffer. And this actually needs a time argument, because now previously we were just saving JPEGs to the file system, and the rate at which I was showing them was this, the rate I was clicking the next button. But now we need to pass in the time so that the video knows when to show the next frame. So if you have 60 frames per second, you need to give a time that moves ahead 60 times a second. But you can also have, if nothing changes on screen, just don't output new video frames, and then the next frame you show, you just give a time that's a long way ahead. That way you don't only need to change store a new frame if something changes, and passing time. So I have a time here, I can pass it in. Also, this returns a sample buffer thing, but it's optional because the session can drop frames. If my hardware is busy, my Mac is busy, there's hardware video encoders in here. If they're busy, you just don't have the time to encode the frame, then it might drop a frame. But yeah, that's fine. I'll just do if let sample buffer. This sample buffer is again a little wrapper object from Apple that has the encoded data and some information about the time and other stuff. And if I want to turn that into data, I can store to disk. I have again a helper function for that. Convert to NXB. NXB is a sort of a informal format of how to encode video to data, so that you can store it or transfer it over the network. So now I have data. And data I can write, so I have a file handle, write the data to it. Doesn't even throw. Cool. Okay, let's try. Let's see if this works. Make video. Actually, I should clean this directory first. Make video. Is it doing anything? I don't know. I should. Okay. Let me. I have a progress method. Oh, it was done. Okay, let's do it again. Click. Click, miss, go. Why is it not working? Oh, I always ignore all this stuff. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so it's creating data. This is for each video frame this many bytes. I don't know how much that is. It's done. And now I have a movie file which is 200 kilobytes. But let's see what this looks like. Except this isn't a normal movie file. This isn't something I can double click on because it doesn't have any container format. If you use QuickTime or like an MP4 file or an MOV file, those are all called container formats because they contain the video data, but also audio data, maybe subtitle tracks, lots of stuff. This is just the raw video data. But there's in FFmpeg, there's a bunch of tools that can deal with that. So I'll use FFplay, which can handle this. So let's see. We have a video file. So that's a 1 second video file, but now we went from 350 megabytes to 4 megabytes for the 350 for the uncompressed, 4 megabytes for the compressed JPEGs, and now 204 kilobytes for the same video, but now compressed using H.264 video compression. And this is something that we can transmit over the internet and or live stream to somebody else or do something with, because now it's all the same data. It looks basically the same. If you look at the pixels, you will see some video compression, but it looks basically the same, and it still works. Yeah, okay, so this works. One thing I can do is just change the source. I was doing this create image here. I can also do await pixel buffer in camera feeds. So now I have pixel buffers here. I don't have the I anymore. I don't have this anymore. And the time is the date, time interval since when I started. I don't need this anymore. Okay, so now I have the same code to create a video from my camera feed. So if I just start it here and click here, and now I wait. Oh, I see the light going on. It's working, I think. I don't know, let's see. It's working. So this is the delayed video. And it just keeps going. Okay, this is a live stream, yeah. And there's no way, this isn't ending because, yeah, I'm now streaming it live. It's just going through this loop, writing through that file, which I'm playing back here. The file is getting bigger and bigger, yeah, exactly. I don't, it says 0 bytes, this is amazing. I don't believe it. The file is still being written to. So I can, if I just stop, I don't know how long this is. How do I stop? Stop. Let's see how big the file turned out to be. For 500 megabytes. So yeah, this is full HD video, 500 megabytes for however long that recording was. If I want to have a smaller file, I can reduce the resolution or increase the compression or change to a different video codec that is more efficient. Yeah.
You mentioned you have keyframes.
Yes.
And is this something that you can also provide to the thing so it's a lot more efficient? Or if there's, for example, a scene change in your live feed, does it figure it out itself on, hey,
yes. So by default, it will, well, there's so much you can configure to the compression session. So by default, it will just figure stuff out, but you can also say, hey, I know something changed. I want to force a keyframe here. For the live streaming stuff that we do, for example, to stream video from the Mac to the Vision Pro, if on the Mac the video compression starts, it creates a keyframe and then starts sending the differences. But then if you disconnect on your Vision and you reconnect again, you don't have the initial keyframe. So it will look like those strange videos you sometimes see that are just moving stuff around because it doesn't have a keyframe. So for that, in that example, we, from the Vision, send a command back to say, hey, create a keyframe, I need one. Or on the Mac, see, hey, somebody new connected, let's force a keyframe now. So you can really optimize that. Yeah, there's a lot of options there. So yeah, that was the recap. You have uncompressed pixel buffer data. That's the stuff in CG images. That's what macOS deals with or iOS deals with all the time. If you read a UI image from a JPEG or from an asset catalog, to render it to screen, it needs to uncompress it, so it turns it into a CG image that at some point will be uncompressed. It really depends on when it will be uncompressed, but by the time you see it, it's uncompressed. You can just compress individual frames, and it's already very useful, like a Raspberry Pi webcam feed, or use an actual video compression to like H.264 or H.265 to compress video. Yeah, and after that you can do things like write it to a file to create a movie file using AV Asset Writer, or stream it to a video. If you create a HLS stream, that's a live video that somebody can, you can write to a server and then somebody can stream it from a server or stream it over the network. This is what we do for like the Vision Pro, that you can see stuff on your Mac. We create data from it and stream it over the network. So if you're interested in this, I encourage you to look at Apple's talks, because they have a lot of talks. This is one of them, Direct Access to Video Encoding and Decoding from 2014, which I'm happy to see is still online or back online. They put a bunch of sessions back online, but they also take sessions go offline. So we made a website, WWC Index, that shows all sessions that Apple ever had since 2000, the year 2000. And you can browse that if you want to see some, look for some specific talk. And usually, even if they don't show the talk on the Apple developer app anymore, it's still hosted on the CDN, so we have links to all the CDN over there, so you can still see all the videos. So if you're interested in something like this, lots of talks are from earlier, because nothing changed since like 2005 when they introduced something. So, but the talk is still relevant. But this is a great talk about introducing all the video compression stuff. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
No?
Who's gonna compress some videos?
Tom, you got other questions?
Sorry?
You got more questions? Okay, well then in that case, thank you very much, Tom, for the very clear explanation, because there's no questions. So, oh, one.
So when you were creating Bezel for this, or Bezel, however you pronounce it, so what would you say is like the biggest part of your code? Is that the network stuff, or is that the compression stuff? The streaming all the data?
Bezel currently works via wire, so there's no network transfer stuff. Just so for yeah, people want wireless. We've heard your questions, your requests. So what is the most stuff? So, like you need, like for the split screen to wirelessly stream video to the Vision, you need to do basically this, what I just showed, compress the video and then create data from it, send it over the network, but that's something you figure out once. Now there's a cool open source project from Finn Voorhees called Transcoding, I think. It's on GitHub, which basically does this. You give it uncompressed video data from some source, and then it turns it into data that you can send over the network. It's a little bit of code. It's difficult to figure out initially if you don't have any examples, but then you can reuse it. We reuse it all the time. Okay, Matthijs is a better answer.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add that, so the video compression stuff, there is a more high-level API for that. So if you're going to write out video, you probably want to start out with a higher-level API, like AVS writer, or there's even, I think, a movie file writer. So that's pretty easy to get started with. For all the sending stuff over the network, you're pretty much on your own. There is no easy Apple API for that. So in terms of how many time did it take you to send stuff over the network, then it's definitely took more time to do the networking stuff, because that's something you have to do all yourself. That NXB stream Tom wrote out, that's something you just have to do yourself. There's no API for that.
Yeah, and if you just want to record a video, like on your iPhone, then there's a lot better APIs than these.
Don't start out with your own bitmap.
Don't start creating bitmaps and colors. There's a lot better APIs, but the AV capture session is an easy one that you can just give a camera to, give a file to, and it does it. Creates a file from your camera and compresses it. Okay, thank you very much.